Okay, so I'm going to show you how to animate your 2.5D image in After Effects. After you've made a perfect selection in Photoshop, separating the foreground and background and filling in any gaps, you want to import your Photoshop document into After Effects. This is very important. You want to import it as a composition. Okay, find your Photoshop document, open it, just click OK. And you'll have a folder here with all your layers intact. If you drag that folder down to the timeline, you'll create a new composition. I find that 10 seconds is a pretty good length for these, so set that for 10 seconds, click OK, and it brings your layers in on the timeline and starts a new composition. It may reorder your layers, so if things look weird, just make sure that the right layer is on top. So we want to make these 3D layers so we can change the Z space. So right here, this little cube that says make a 3D layer. So we want to just check that box, make both of them a 3D layer. And we want to expand this drop-down menu, go to the transform menu, and change the Z position. So we're effectively moving the background further back and scale it up so that it looks right. Now both of these are aligned in 3D space. I want to add a new camera layer. So in the menu, go Layer, New, Camera. Okay. I'm going to readjust my background a little bit. All right. So I want to expand my camera menu, go to the Transform Camera, and we're going to change the position of the camera. And I want to keyframe this so it changes over time. So if I click the stopwatch, that makes a keyframe at the very beginning of my timeline. Then I'll just go to the end of my timeline, and I'll do a simple move like a zoom, and I'll change the X and Y a little bit too to kind of increase the parallax of it. So now if I go back and render it, you can see how the foreground and background move independently from each other, and it creates that parallax effect to make it look a little more 3D. So let's see, now I want to do the puppet pin tool and actually add movement or change the motion of my object. So up here, the little push pin is the puppet pin tool. If I click that, I can make points on my foreground object. So that basically pins him into place, into that position at the very beginning of the timeline. Now if I go to the end and change these positions, it's going to create an ending position, and you just want to do subtle movements. So now I have an ending position. So between those two positions, the position of his body will actually change. And I think that looks kind of cool, but it's weird because he's just standing in place. So I also want to keyframe his position and start him from the left and move him to the right. So over here in position, I want him to start like that. So be sure I go to the beginning of my timeline, set the position value that I want, click the stopwatch to make a keyframe. So that means at the very beginning of the timeline, he will be in this position. And we have a keyframe, so After Effects knows that that value is going to change over time. It doesn't know what to change to yet or when, so we'll go to the end of the timeline and set our ending value. So we'll slide them over to the right. So now, once you make one keyframe, anywhere on the timeline you change that value, it automatically adds a second keyframe for you. So now we have him moving from left to right. So the position's keyframed, the puppet pin tool is keyframed a little bit, and the camera is doing a very subtle zoom in because we keyframe the position of the camera. That is how you make the 2.5D effect in After Effects.